Ohio State reportedly wants more money from the Big Ten. That's right. Ohio State wants more money from the Big Ten. That is coming out. It came out yesterday. The Ohio State Buckeyes are basically complaining about how much revenue they generate for the Big Ten compared to what other schools generate in the Big Ten. This is a big deal. This is going to stand out more. Ohio State program valuations, if we're just doing football revenue alone, laps most of the rest of the Big Ten. Now, Ohio State as an overall projected value, according to The Athletic, is worth roughly $1.9 billion. This follows the Big 12 doing a certain revenue model, the Mountain West doing a revenue distribution model where it's uneven, and most notably the ACC to stay afloat when Florida State was suing them. Florida State and Clemson reached an agreement where there would be more revenue going to schools that produce better ratings in the season for games. That's how they can stay competitive with SEC programs for now. Ohio State is trying to go above that. Here's the thing. Ohio State's in the best situation possible already. In terms of conference TV revenue payout, save Notre Dame, who is independent, Ohio State's in the conference that generates the most revenue and pays the most out per school. And they are on the upper tier of that because two of the schools in the Big Ten, Oregon and Washington, are playing and taking half the revenue. So Ohio State is playing hardball to go even beyond that. Now, is this a thing long term for college football? Are the upper schools and conferences going to start demanding more money and band together to form their own conference? Well, this is just the start. But let me say this to you guys. And this is not about Greg Sankey, because I've told you guys for a while, I don't think he does a good job as commissioner. However, bank on it. Brought to you by Commercial Bank, members FDIC, Life Made Better. Bank on it. There are going to be schools in all major conferences now, up to the Big Ten, which is supposed to be unaffected, demanding more money from their conferences. It is going to cause chaos across the college football world. While that is happening, the SEC will be fine, and it won't affect the SEC. That's Bank on It, brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
Here is why every school, every conference but the SEC is going to have this problem. Every conference but the SEC gets carried by 2 to 3 programs, is much more top heavy. This is the argument we've always made for why the SEC is the toughest conference. Because in other conferences, you get your Florida States and Clemsons in the ACC, and sometimes your Miamis, and even those are questionable right now. You get your Ohio States and Michigans, and then a Cinderella every now and then, whether that be Washington, Indiana, or whatever. And then you also get your Penn States in the Big Ten. In the 16-team SEC, you generally go about 10 deep with programs hoping to compete for a national title at any time that can generate a ton of revenue. Texas, Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Texas A&M, and Florida, and Oklahoma, per the most recent revenue reportings in 2024, were the top 10 revenue-producing schools. That is 7 of the top 10 coming from the SEC. 7 of the top 10 came from the SEC. The only ones that didn't, Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. But wait, I'm not done. Auburn, 8 of the top 11. 8 of the top 11 came specifically from the SEC, okay? That is a big deal. In terms of total revenue, that's a huge deal. And as you go forward, when you look at the athletic valuations of programs, which is another one, Texas is number 1, projected price $2.38 billion. Georgia number 2, Ohio State number 3, Notre Dame number 4, Michigan number 5, Alabama number 6, Oklahoma number 7, USC number 8, Tennessee number 9, LSU number 10. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 SEC schools, 3 Big Ten schools, and an independent school. And then when you get to 12, you have 8 SEC schools. You get to 9 SEC schools before you get to the 6th Big Ten school, or before you even get to the top ACC school. What I'm saying to you guys is there's a reason Ohio State's fighting for this. There are a lot more, to use capitalist phrases here, takers in the Big Ten than there are contributors. Whereas the SEC is by and large loaded with contributors. So they all somewhat benefit from each other. Yes, Texas is a contributor on a level much higher than anybody else in the SEC. That's not deniable. But they're the only ones. And Texas could have gone independent and chose to go to the SEC. They made certain demands. The SEC, as long as Greg Sankey is not even worse than I thought he was as a commissioner, is in a position to not really cater to Texas. So with that in mind, this is Ohio State testing some waters. But I really do think it will be a problem with the Big Ten because Ohio State and Michigan have every right to feel that they contribute so much more than they take in from the Big Ten. See, in the SEC, it doesn't actually work out that way. The SEC goes so deep. Everybody I named, by the way, again, let's just talk about it. Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Auburn, Texas, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, LSU. That's 9. I feel like I'm missing one. Let me just go back real quick and think about this. Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Auburn, LSU, Texas A&M, Texas, Oklahoma. Okay, those nine programs expect to be national championship winning programs. Now, the other 7, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, South Carolina, and Missouri hope to be relevant. But that is less than half of the SEC, and that's about 3/4 of the Big Ten. And those type of schools aren't going to be the revenue producers that they want to be. So because of that, look, I'm telling you guys this right now, the saving grace for the SEC is that the SEC goes way deeper in terms of contributors than takers. Yes, Vanderbilt's a taker. We all know Vanderbilt's a taker. But it's one thing if, all the contributors, Tennessee, Texas, Georgia, Florida, I talked about all those schools, they all pony up just a little bit of money to help out Vanderbilt. Ohio State and Michigan by themselves are ponying up money to help out about 12 other schools in the Big Ten. It's not the same. It's not the same at all. And so because of that, you don't have the same problem with the SEC that you're going to have with the Big Ten. This is the arguments that we always make on why the SEC is the better conference. The SEC is the better conference because you're not, and by the way, this leads to production on the field. I've never denied Ohio State and Michigan could do what Georgia or Alabama or any of those schools do in the SEC. USC in their heyday in the 2000s could have done it, okay? And USC has the infrastructure of the program to still be able to do it. Florida State, Miami, Clemson, sure. I'm not taking anything away from any of those programs. But I picked 2 to 3 from a conference. USC I get in the Big Ten now. But I'm picking 2 to 3 from a conference. Whereas in the SEC, you go 9 deep of schools that could do that at any given time. And that's the real difference. So when you bring all of that up, that is to say that I don't see how in any way, shape, or form the Big Ten gets out of this. And I also don't see how the SEC ever struggles from that perspective. I just don't see a way that the SEC can sit there and struggle from that perspective at all. I think the SEC, again, life is better when you have more high-level contributors than when you don't. That's life in general. Okay, when you have, you can look at communities across the country that are funded by property taxes. When the majority of the people in your community are homeowners, all of a sudden you got a lot more money to do things because you have a lot more people with properties to tax. When the majority of your community is renters, it's hard to pay for services. That's just how things work. When you are a contributor of that level, it's, again, I'm not saying I believe in the taker-giver mentality. I'm saying the givers and the producers are going to want to always take more for themselves. That's how life works. That's how college football is going to work. The SEC is a community of majority producers. Every other conference is a community of majority takers. Once you are a majority taker conference, you will have issues at the top. People like Ohio State don't want to contribute that money. for everybody else. And that is the biggest problem, is that the Big Ten is still a majority taker conference. It does not matter how big the TV deal they sign is. It doesn't matter if it's $1 billion. It doesn't matter if it's $2 billion. It doesn't matter if it's $10 billion. Ohio State will have a lot more to do with that than half the Big Ten. And they are going to feel a certain way about that. Nobody in the SEC, nobody contributes more than half the conference. You could take any 8 schools in the SEC. Those 8 schools collectively are going to be more valuable than one school in the SEC. You can't say the same about the Big Ten. You could take 8 schools in the Big Ten, or I guess it's 9. You can take 9 schools in the Big Ten, and if you pick the 9 right schools, Ohio State will be worth more than them collectively and be more valuable. And that's where the big difference comes. And so the issues that face the SEC, that plague the SEC, that plague the SEC are not the same type of issues that are going to plague the Big Ten. This could be the saving grace for the SEC, as Greg Sankey has totally and stupidly bungled negotiations in every single way possible. So look, the SEC is going to be okay on this. They are going to be okay. I think the Big Ten is going to have to address this. This is where when the friction happens, all of a sudden the SEC has an edge that we didn't see before. We're going to see how that plays out long term.